I moved to Nashville with a mattress, a box of cables, and the sort of optimism that fits in a carry-on. Contract work at a small studio off Gallatin would keep me busy through winter. After that, the calendar went foggy. On my second night in town, I wandered into a narrow bar in East Nashville, where the ceiling fans were older than the regulars, and the beer list had opinions. In the corner sat a real jukebox, glass dome, chrome ribs, a mouth that ate dollar bills and gave back light. Above it, someone had taped a handwritten rule. Pick a song, take a sticky, write why. A stack of neon notes leaned against the coin slot like a dare. I fed a crumpled single and punched B17 because Sam Cooke makes rooms kinder. On the sticky I wrote, moving is easier when a voice sounds like home, and left it crooked on the glass. Before the third chorus, a new note appeared beside mine in tidy block letters. Good choice. Rainy songs get an extra 30 seconds of forgiveness. K. The week arranged itself around that machine. I'd clock out from the studio with my ears wrung clean and drift to the bar. The jukebox learned my quarters. Al Green when the door kept arguing with the wind. Etta when someone at the end of the bar looked like a decision. Tom Petty when the day needed a spine. Most nights, somewhere between my first and last song, another set would slide into place behind mine, perfectly balanced like a reply. Sticky notes multiplied. For the road you meant to take anyway, because Thursdays deserve horns. For anyone who finished a thing today, always signed K. I started writing back. For people who fix the wrong cable first and keep trying anyway. For hands that remember what to do before the brain catches up. It felt like a conversation without the risk of seeing your own face while you spoke. One night a thunderstorm laid its forearms across the county. The bar flickered, sighed, and surrendered to candlelight. 20 bodies in a narrow room did the math of sharing glow. The jukebox kept breathing for a minute on whatever was left in it, then fell silent with a small, dignified click. I put my palm on the warm glass like a nurse checking a pulse. Behind me, someone set a flashlight on the bar, and the cones of light made everyone cinematic. The owner, blue Dodgers cap, permanent grin, ducked under the counter and came up with an orange extension cord that looked like a lasso. He asked if anyone in the room spoke power strip. I did. While Rain wrote a novel against the windows, 3 strangers and I made a new grid with what we had. The jukebox wheezed, considered the situation, and found a heartbeat. When it blinked back to life, someone clapped. Not for me, for the idea of continued music. On the glass, a fresh note had appeared while I was crawling around. Nice save. Debt repaid with side B next time. K. A small doodle of a comet hung in the margin. Weeks stacked. I learned the bartender's rotation and which stool didn't wobble. The studio taught me which singers prefer a dark booth and which need to be told they're already enough. The bar taught me how to read a room from the way coins sit in a tip jar. Kay kept matching my picks with an instinct that felt like walking into a sentence at exactly the comma. Kay brought Springsteen on nights that wanted highways, Nina Simone when anyone looked like they needed a spine, the Replacements when the city forgot it could be friendly. I tried to catch Kay with timing, early on Mondays, late on Thursdays, a surgical strike at closing on a Saturday when the street outside was neon and perfumes. I'd stand at the machine, pretend to debate between A11 and C04, and glance at the notes already on the glass. Sometimes there'd be a fresh blue square for the person who can't stop rehearsing what they should have said and is about to forgive themselves instead. K. Other nights, nothing but the glow of other people's reasons. One Sunday, a laminated flyer appeared beside the rules. Jukebox funeral, 1 night only. New streaming system arrives next week. Bring a song that doesn't apologize. The idea of the bar with a tablet instead of a machine made my chest feel like a door being painted shut. The jukebox had taught me the city's weather. I couldn't imagine it retiring without ceremony. The room filled early. Dog-eared regulars took their usual spots like church, and tourists stumbled in with the faces of people who accidentally made a good choice. The machine beamed as if it understood the headline. I wrote for rooms that keep us even when we're square and fed $1. A hand appeared from the other side of the glass, sliding in a note at the same time. Tidy block letters, comet doodle. K. We both hesitated. Strangers revealed by the same reflex. No speech, no rom-com orchestration, just two people whose habits had been brave for them. We didn't introduce ourselves. The funeral didn't allow monologues. We stood half a shoulder apart and took turns. I chose Otis for relief. Kay answered with Roberta because tenderness deserves patience. I picked a Willie Deep cut that made the room nod like old men at a parade. Kay went left with a Talking Heads track that made our candles flicker as if amused. Every few choices, a note would bloom on the glass. For anyone who was told they were too much and stayed loud anyway. K, I added, for anyone who lowered the volume for safety and is turning it up one notch tonight. E. The initial felt like a handshake. K moved a ring from one finger to another, an absent-minded grace note. I learned the shape of a profile in candlelight, a split second of smile after the right chord changes direction. When it was over, the owner patted the chrome, flipped a switch, and the machine sent a last hum into the room like a good dog lying down. People clapped the way people clap in rooms where they know who they are. Outside, the city steamed. Kay stood under the awning and pulled a hood up against the soft wet. I stayed a respectful half pace away and left a final blue square on the door. If this was our voice memo, Wednesdays at Mas Tacos, 6:30, no pressure. E. The comet doodle in the corner was my best attempt. I didn't go the first week. I'd made a rule about not confusing a bar ritual with a life. On the second Wednesday, I drove past the taco place and cursed myself for being a person who drives past the thing. On the third, I parked. Mas Tacos smelled like cumin and good decisions. In the corner, a person in a denim jacket sat with a paperback face down and two waters sweating onto the table. The ring was on the other hand tonight. The tidy block letters became a voice. Low, sure, enjoyed its own jokes. The name was Kira, as simple as a chord you know how to play. We did not audition each other with origin stories. We ate. We compared weather systems. We talked about songs only when the silence asked nicely. When we walked out, the sky resembled a stereo hiss. I said goodnight with my hand because words felt like a risky volume. Wednesdays turned into a calendar item with its own gravity. We didn't need the jukebox anymore. Kira made a playlist called Corners of the Room. I made one called People Who Stayed. We traded earbuds on walks along the Cumberland, letting the bridges do the work of making things look meaningful. I learned she taught 8th grade science and repaired the school's speaker system 3 times a year. She learned I could fix a rattling vent with 2 napkins and a promise. We never called it dating. We called it showing up. On a Monday when the studio overbooked and my day grew sharp, I found a sticky note on my windshield. For anyone who is collecting small mercies like currency. K. A Tuesday delivered an envelope in the mail with 2 tickets to a show at the basement for future selves who will claim they always meant to go. K. We went. We stood near the back because standing near the back is how you tell yourself you could leave and then don't. In late spring, the bar rolled in the new streaming system. It looked like a toaster that wished it were a spaceship. People tried to love it. It tried to be easy. On a shelf behind it, the old sticky note stack remained, smaller now, still neon. A laminated sign above the touchscreen read, "Rule still applies. Reasons required." Somebody had drawn a little comet in the corner. On the first hot night in June, the owner pushed a rolling cart into the corner, a gray metal box with a hand-painted sign, "Take a song, leave a story." Inside were cassette tapes with paper labels, an old Walkman with fresh batteries, a Sharpie, and a printed instruction. Record 1 minute. Say what this place taught you. Don't rehearse. Kira pressed record and said, as if to the table, that the jukebox had taught her how to talk before the talking. I said it taught me to answer with something true. We never got grand. We got local. On Wednesdays, we started bringing a portable speaker to the park and taping a sheet of paper to a picnic table. Listening club. Bring a song and a reason. Strangers came like weather. Dog walkers, a nurse off night shift, a man who sold real estate with mercy. People said things they meant. A kid requested a Disney track with the seriousness of a surgeon. An older woman played Patsy Cline and left a note, for the man I loved once and the way my kitchen still knows the dance. Some nights Kira and I end up back at the bar. The tablet sits there, unbothered by our suspicion. On the shelf above, a jar holds folded squares of neon, stories we don't open because the knowing isn't ours. The jukebox is gone, but sometimes when the room is the right kind of loud, I can hear the shape of it in the way the night keeps time. People ask how we met. We say songs and let the rest be more specific when it wants to be. I don't know if the jukebox learned our names. I do know it taught us how to leave reasons behind. Enough that when someone new walks in with $1 in a day they want to feel proud of, the room already knows how to hold them. If you end up in East Nashville on a Wednesday and see a piece of paper flapping on a park table, bring a track and one line about why. We'll make space. We'll pass the speaker. We'll let the city sing you back to yourself. No tablets required.